Have you ever found yourself in a position to hear something you were never supposed to know? Something that could change not just the course of your life, but the destiny of those who keep secrets hidden in places no one dares question. The Palace of Elmsworth, a towering structure of stone and history, rose against the night sky of the kingdom of Westmere. Its Gothic towers seemed to touch the stars, while its lit windows glimmered like watchful eyes in the dark. It stood as a monument to royalty, a symbol of power and tradition that had withstood the test of time for centuries. Inside its ancient walls, Anna, a 32-year-old nurse, walked quietly through the decorated corridors. Her footsteps echoed softly on the polished marble floors as the scent of candle wax and old wood filled the air. The walls, adorned with rich tapestries and portraits of long-deceased ancestors, seemed to watch her with painted eyes that held secrets from ages past. Anna had dedicated the last 5 years of her life to caring for Duke Maurice, the last heir of a lineage tracing back to the founding of the kingdom itself. Her work was more than a profession. It was a calling, a responsibility she carried with pride and discretion. As she approached the Duke's room, Anna felt an unusual unease settle in her stomach. The night was unusually quiet, as if the palace itself were holding its breath, waiting for something monumental. Upon entering the room, she was greeted by the warm glow of the fireplace. The flames danced, casting shadows on the cold stone walls and creating a hypnotic play of light and dark. The woody scent of burning logs mixed with the fragrance of the medicinal oils Anna applied to the Duke's fragile skin each night. Duke Maurice, at 87, lay in his ornately dressed bed. His wrinkled, pale face contrasted against the crimson silk sheets. His eyes, usually half-closed and distant, seemed more alert tonight, gleaming with a rare intensity. "Anna," he called, his voice trembling but urgent. "Come closer, my dear." Anna stepped forward, feeling the weight of the Duke's gaze. She adjusted his pillows, her hands gentle and efficient. "How are you feeling tonight, Your Grace?" she asked, her voice soft and comforting. The Duke didn't answer immediately. His eyes wandered around the room, as if searching for invisible listeners. When he spoke again, his voice was a mere whisper. "Anna, there is something you need to know, something I have carried with me for decades." Anna's heart raced. In all her years of service, the Duke had never spoken like this, with such urgency and fear. They must never know. They will never know. But I have failed. Anna leaned slightly closer, unsure if the Duke was awake or lost in some disturbing dream. She held her breath, each word sounding heavier, laden with secrets she never imagined she'd hear. The children, the true heirs, everything was covered up. "Anna, protect them." The Duke's words froze Anna's heart. True heirs. What did he mean? Her mind swirled with possibilities, each more shocking than the last. "Your Grace, what do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. But the Duke had fallen into a deep sleep, his chest rising and falling in a slow, regular rhythm. Anna remained there, motionless, the Duke's words echoing in her mind. That same early morning, after the Duke had finally fallen asleep, Anna felt an urgent need to understand what she had heard. It was as if the palace itself were conspiring for her to uncover its secrets. As she gazed out the window, the full moon bathed the palace gardens in a silvery light, casting long, mysterious shadows. Anna knew that Elmsworth was not just a residence, it was a labyrinth of buried memories, of forbidden loves and conspiracies. Determined, she realized the answers would not be easy to find, and that in seeking the truth, she risked not just her position, but also her life. But how could she ignore the Duke's words? How could she continue her life knowing such deep secrets were buried within this palace's very foundations? Anna looked at the sleeping Duke, his frail figure almost disappearing amidst the luxurious sheets. She made a silent promise. She would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. When the first ray of sunlight broke through the window, Anna had already made her decision. Her life in Elmsworth Palace would never be the same. The quest for the truth had begun, and with it a journey that would test her courage, loyalty, and resolve as never before. Have you ever felt the weight of a secret so great that it seems to draw the very breath from your lungs? How would you react upon discovering that everything you believed about the place where you live and work could be a carefully crafted lie? The days following Duke Maurice's revelation were a whirlwind of emotions and conflicting thoughts for Anna. Every corner of Elmsworth Palace, once familiar and welcoming, now seemed to hide shadows and secrets. The ornate corridors with their Persian rugs and medieval armor appeared longer and more sinister. The walls, paneled with dark oak and decorated with portraits of noble ancestors, seemed to watch her with accusing eyes, as if they knew she now carried a forbidden knowledge. Anna continued her daily tasks, caring for the Duke with the same dedication as ever. But inside, her mind swirled with questions. Who were the true heirs the Duke had mentioned? Why had they been covered up? And most importantly, what was she to do with this information? One particularly cold morning, as she helped the Duke settle into his favorite chair near the fireplace, Anna decided to risk asking a question. "Your Grace," she began hesitantly, "a few days ago, you mentioned something about heirs. I was wondering if—" The Duke Maurice turned to her sharply, his faded blue eyes suddenly sharp and alert. For a moment, Anna glimpsed the man he must have been in his youth, strong, determined, perhaps even formidable. "Anna," he said, his voice a rough whisper, "there are things within this palace best left buried. But—" he paused, looking around as if fearing he might be overheard. "If you truly wish to know, look in my old study. There is a book, a diary. It contains more than it should." Anna felt her heart race. This was the confirmation she needed, proof that she hadn't imagined the conversation from that night. But before she could ask more questions, she heard footsteps approaching. Mrs. Harland, the palace's housekeeper, entered the room, her stern gaze sweeping the room before landing on Anna. "Miss Anna, your presence is requested in the kitchen. It seems there has been a minor accident with one of the helpers." Anna nodded, casting one last look at the Duke before leaving. She couldn't help but notice how Mrs. Harland watched her closely, as if suspecting something. That night, after everyone had retired, Anna found herself before the door to the Duke's old study. The corridor was silent, lit only by the faint glow of a few candles. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the ornate doorknob. Was she truly prepared for what she might uncover? With a deep breath, she turned the doorknob and entered. The study was a testament to the Duke's past grandeur. Bookshelves covered the walls from floor to ceiling, interrupted only by a large window overlooking the palace gardens. A massive mahogany desk dominated the center of the room, its surface covered with yellowed papers and ancient objects. Anna began her search, her fingers sliding over dusty book spines and fragile papers. That's when she noticed a small hidden drawer on the side of the desk. Carefully, she opened it, revealing a worn leather diary with the initials MF embossed on the cover. With trembling hands, Anna opened the diary. The pages were yellowed with age, the elegant handwriting difficult to decipher. She began reading, her breath growing faster with every word. June 20th, 1962. The birth happened tonight. The child, a girl, was born strong and healthy, but the price was far too high. Isabel did not survive the delivery. The Royal Council insists that the child must be hidden. They fear the prophecy, fear what it could mean for Westmere's future. But how can I deny my own daughter? How can I hide the true heir to the throne? Anna let out a sharp breath. A secret daughter, a true hidden heir. The implications were vast, potentially devastating for the current power structure in Westmere. As she continued reading, absorbing details about the hidden child and the fears of the Royal Council, Anna didn't notice the shadow moving outside the window. Nor did she hear the soft click of the door opening behind her. It was only when she felt a hand on her shoulder that she turned, stifling a scream. Standing before her was Richard, the palace's quiet guard, his dark eyes fixed on the diary in her hands. "You shouldn't be here, Anna," he said, his voice low and grave. "There are things in this palace best left alone." Anna felt fear rising up her spine, but also a fierce determination. She had come too far to turn back now. "Richard," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "what do you know about this? About the hidden child?" For a long moment, Richard was silent, his gaze shifting between Anna and the diary. Finally, he spoke. Follow me. There's something you need to see." With her heart pounding, Anna followed Richard out of the study, clutching the diary tightly against her chest. As they walked through the darkened corridors of the palace, she couldn't help but wonder, how far would this search for the truth take her, and what would be the price for this knowledge? Chapter 3. The Hidden Path. Have you ever wondered what lies behind the walls that surround us? What ancient secrets might be buried beneath our feet, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to seek them? Anna followed Richard through the labyrinthine corridors of Elmsworth Palace, her heart pounding so loudly she feared it might wake the entire castle. The guard moved with a silent grace that contrasted with his sturdy figure, as if he knew every creaky floorboard and every treacherous shadow. They descended a spiral staircase Anna had never noticed before, its stone steps worn down by time and use. The air grew colder and damper as they went down, filled with the smell of earth and ancient secrets. "Richard," Anna whispered, her voice echoing slightly against the stone walls. "Where are we going?" The guard didn't answer immediately. When they reached the bottom of the staircase, he turned to her, his eyes gleaming in the dim light of the torch he carried. "To the heart of Elmsworth's secret," he said finally, "the place where everything began and where it all might end." He pushed open a heavy oak door, revealing a circular chamber. The walls were lined with ancient tapestries, their once vibrant colors now faded by time. In the center of the room stood a stone pedestal, and on it, "This is it," Richard said, his voice filled with reverence and fear. "The Book of Lineages." Anna approached slowly. The book was huge, bound in black leather with gold details. Its pages seemed to glow with a light of their own, as if they held not just ink, but the very essence of Westmere's history. "This book," Richard explained, "contains the records of all Westmere's royal bloodlines from the kingdom's very foundation, including—" He hesitated, looking directly at Anna. "Those that were hidden." With trembling hands, Anna opened the book. The pages were filled with names, dates, and intricate lines connecting families through the centuries. But what caught her attention was a page near the end of the book. There, written in delicate handwriting, was a name that made her heart stop for a moment. Eleanor Fitzroy, born June 20th, 1962. Below the name, there was a hastily written note, "The Child of the Night, hidden to protect the kingdom from the prophecy." Anna looked at Richard, her eyes wide with surprise and confusion. "The Child of the Night? What prophecy is this?" Richard sighed deeply, as if the weight of centuries lay upon his shoulders. "It's an ancient legend, Anna. It is said that a child born on the darkest night of the year would bring irreversible changes to Westmere. Some believe these changes would be for the better, bringing an era of prosperity and justice. Others—" He paused, his gaze lost in the chamber's shadows. "Feared it could mean the end of the monarchy as we know it." Anna tried to take it all in. Her mind raced with the implications. "So Eleanor, she is the true heir to the throne?" Richard nodded slowly. "Yes, but few know of it. Duke Maurice in his youth made the difficult decision to hide her to protect her. He sent her away to be raised by a trusted family, far from the eyes of the court and the dangers that surrounded her." "But why?" Anna asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "Why keep this secret for so long?" "Fear, Anna," Richard replied, his voice laden with regret. "Fear of the unknown, fear of change. Westmere's court has long been a nest of intrigue and power. The idea of an unknown heiress, potentially bearing an ancient prophecy, was too much for some to bear." Anna closed the book gently, feeling the weight of history in her hands. "And now, what happens now that we know this?" Richard looked her in the eyes, his expression a mixture of determination and caution. "That, Anna, depends on you. Duke Maurice trusted you for a reason. He must have seen something in you, a strength and integrity that few possess in this palace." Anna felt a chill run down her spine. The responsibility now resting on her shoulders was immense. "We need to find her," she said finally, her voice gaining strength. "We need to find Eleanor and bring her back." Richard nodded slowly. "Yes, but it won't be easy." There are those in the palace who will do anything to keep this secret buried. We need to be careful, discreet. As they climbed back to the palace's upper floors, Anna felt as if the world had changed. The familiar corridors now seemed different, laden with secrets and possibilities. She knew that each step from now on would be dangerous. Each word would have to be chosen carefully. As she bid Richard farewell that night, Anna made a silent promise to herself and to Duke Maurice. She would find Eleanor, the true heir to Westmere, and help bring the truth to light, no matter the cost. Have you ever felt as though you were being watched, even when alone? As though the very walls had eyes tracking your every move? In the days following the discovery of the Book of Lineages, Anna felt constantly watched. Every glance, every whisper in the palace's corridors seemed charged with hidden meanings. She continued her daily tasks, caring for Duke Maurice with the same dedication as ever, but her mind was in a constant whirl. One morning, as she helped the Duke dress, she noticed something different in his eyes, a spark of lucidity that she hadn't seen in a long time. "Anna," he said, his voice weak but determined, "you found the book, didn't you?" She hesitated for a moment, but decided that honesty was the best path. "Yes, Your Grace. I know about Eleanor." The Duke closed his eyes for a moment, as if absorbing the weight of that confirmation. When he opened them again, they were glistening with tears. "My dear Eleanor, you must find her, Anna. She is the key to everything. But be careful. There are eyes and ears everywhere in this palace." That same day, while walking through the palace gardens, Anna noticed Mrs. Harland, the housekeeper, talking quietly with a member of the royal council. Their gazes briefly turned to her, and Anna felt a chill run down her spine. That night she met with Richard in one of the palace's abandoned towers. The wind howled outside, muffling their voices. "We need to act quickly," Richard said, his voice barely above a whisper. "To believe that some council members suspect something is happening. They might try to stop our search for Eleanor." Anna nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. "Where do we start?" Richard pulled a small map from his jacket. "Here," he pointed to a distant spot. "There is a village called Millbrook. That's where Eleanor was taken as a child. It's our best chance to find clues about her current whereabouts." As they planned their journey, Anna couldn't help but think of all the lives that would be affected by their actions. Westmere's future was in their hands, and the weight of that responsibility was almost overwhelming. But she knew she had no choice. The truth needed to come to light, no matter the cost. The dawn had barely touched Elmsworth's towers when Anna and Richard set out. The sky was painted in shades of pink and gold, as if the universe itself were blessing their mission. They traveled disguised as simple villagers, their faces partially hidden by hoods. The road to Millbrook was long and winding, snaking through dense forests and lush fields. As they rode, Anna couldn't stop thinking about all they had left behind. Duke Maurice, in his final moments of clarity, had given his blessing to the mission, but the weight of leaving him still hung heavy in her heart. "Richard," Anna broke the silence after hours of travel, "how did you get involved in all this? How did you come to know Eleanor's secret?" The guard was silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with emotion. "My father was Duke Maurice's personal guard the night Eleanor was born. He was the only one besides the midwife to see the child before she was taken away. On his deathbed, he told me everything, passing the burden of the secret to me." Anna absorbed this information, feeling a new wave of respect for her companion. "And you carried this secret all these years?" Richard nodded. "Just as my father did before me. But now it's time for the truth to come to light. Westmere needs its true heir." As the day wore on, the landscape around them began to change. The well-kept roads gave way to more rustic paths, and grand estates were replaced by small farms and villages. By nightfall, they arrived at a small inn by the roadside. The place was simple but welcoming, with the smell of fresh bread and beer in the air. "We'll rest here tonight," Richard said, dismounting his horse. "Tomorrow we'll reach Millbrook." As they settled into a quiet corner of the tavern, Anna couldn't help but notice the curious looks they received from the other patrons. Travelers were rare in this region, and she knew they needed to be cautious. "What will we do when we reach Millbrook?" she asked quietly, leaning over her bowl of stew. Richard took a sip of his beer before answering. "There is a woman there, an old friend of the royal family. Her name is Margaret. If anyone knows Eleanor's current whereabouts, it's her." Anna nodded, feeling a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. They were so close now, so close to uncovering a mystery that had been kept secret for decades. That night, lying in her simple bed at the inn, Anna couldn't sleep. Her mind was filled with images: Duke Maurice's wrinkled face, the ancient pages of the Book of Lineages, and Eleanor's imagined face, the woman who could change the fate of an entire kingdom. As the wind whispered outside, carrying the scent of pine trees and promises of adventure, Anna made a silent promise to the stars. She would find Eleanor, no matter the cost. The truth of Westmere would come to light, and with it, perhaps, a new dawn for the kingdom. Have you ever wondered how a small village could hold secrets so great that they could shake the foundations of a kingdom? How the simple lives of its inhabitants might be intertwined with the fate of an entire nation? The sun had barely risen over the horizon when Anna and Richard reached the outskirts of Millbrook. The village was a picturesque sight: stone houses with thatched roofs, a central square with an ancient well, and lush fields stretching as far as the eye could see. At first glance, it seemed like an ordinary place, with nothing suggesting its crucial role in Westmere's history. But Anna knew better. Beneath this facade of normality, Millbrook held the kingdom's most precious secret. "Where will we find Margaret?" Anna asked, her eyes scanning the village's quiet streets. Richard pointed to a small house at the end of the main street. "There, Margaret has lived alone since her husband passed away. She's known as the local healer, but few know of her true importance." They dismounted and approached the house. The front garden was a tangle of herbs and flowers, some of which Anna recognized from her nursing studies. The scent of lavender and rosemary filled the air. Richard knocked on the door 3 times in a specific pattern. There was a moment of silence, and then the door slowly opened. Margaret was a short woman with grey hair tied in a loose bun. Her deep blue eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of many lives. She looked at Richard with immediate recognition, then at Anna with curiosity. "Come in," she said simply, her voice surprisingly strong for her age. The interior of the house was cozy, full of books, dried plants hanging from the ceiling, and glass jars containing mysterious mixtures. Margaret led them to a small sitting room, where a fireplace crackled softly. "So," she said, sitting in a worn armchair, "you've come because of her, haven't you?" Anna and Richard exchanged surprised glances. "How did you—" Anna began. Margaret smiled, a smile that spoke of ancient secrets and hidden knowledge. "My dear, I have been waiting for this day for a long time, since the night I held that little baby in my arms and delivered her to her new family." Anna felt her heart race. "So you know where Eleanor is now?" Margaret's smile faded, replaced by a look of concern. "I did. Until a few months ago, I kept regular contact with her. But then, she disappeared." Richard leaned forward, his voice tense. "Disappeared? What do you mean?" Margaret sighed deeply. Eleanor always knew she was different, that there was a secret surrounding her origins. As she grew, her curiosity only increased. About 6 months ago, she told me she had discovered something, a clue about her true past. She left to investigate and never returned. Anna felt a chill down her spine. The search for Eleanor had just become far more complicated and potentially dangerous. "Do you have any idea where she might have gone?" Anna asked, trying to keep calm. Margaret stood up slowly and walked to an old desk in the corner of the room. From a locked drawer, she took out a small medallion. "This belonged to Eleanor," she said, handing the object to Anna. "She left it with me before she left, saying she would return to retrieve it." The medallion bears an engraved symbol, a rose entwined with a sword. It is an ancient symbol, linked to a secret order said to protect Westmere's true heirs. Anna examined the medallion, feeling its weight and importance. It was a clue, perhaps the only one they had. "There are rumors," Margaret continued, her voice low as if fearing to be overheard, "that this order has a sanctuary hidden in the Iron Mountains to the north. If Eleanor discovered her heritage, It's possible she went there in search of answers. Anna and Richard exchanged glances. The Iron Mountains were known for their treacherous terrain and unpredictable weather. A journey there would be dangerous, but it seemed to be their only lead. "Margaret," Anna said, holding the medallion firmly, "do you have any other information that could help us? Anything about this secret order, or what Eleanor might have discovered?" The old woman remained silent for a moment, as if carefully weighing her next words. "There is a legend," she began, "about an ancient book guarded by the Order. They say it contains the true history of Westmere, including prophecies about its future. If Eleanor discovered this book, she would go after it," Richard finished, his voice filled with concern. Margaret nodded. "But be careful. Powerful forces do not want these secrets to come to light. Your journey will be dangerous." Anna felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but also a growing determination. "We have no choice," she said. "We need to find Eleanor and uncover the truth for the sake of Westmere." As they prepared to leave, Margaret stopped them one last time. "Remember," she said, her eyes gleaming with ancient wisdom, "not everything is as it seems. The truth may be more complex than you imagine. Trust each other and your instincts." With Margaret's words of warning echoing in their minds, Anna and Richard left Millbrook, Eleanor's medallion as their only tangible clue. Ahead of them lay the towering Iron Mountains, guarding secrets that could change Westmere's destiny forever. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to face the unknown, knowing that every step could lead to either truth or danger? How courage and determination are tested when the path ahead is obscured and filled with uncertainty. The air grew thinner and colder as Anna and Richard climbed the steep slopes of the Iron Mountains. The terrain was treacherous, with loose rocks and deep ravines hidden under the persistent fog. The wind howled between the peaks, carrying with it the echo of ancient secrets. "Richard," Anna shouted over the wind, "do you think we're on the right path?" The guard stopped for a moment, his eyes scanning the misty horizon. According to legend, the Order's sanctuary is hidden in a valley between the two highest peaks. It should be just ahead. As they moved forward, Anna couldn't help but think of Eleanor. What secrets had she uncovered that led her to this dangerous journey? And more importantly, was she still alive? Suddenly Richard raised his hand, signaling for them to stop. "Look," he whispered, pointing to a rocky formation in the distance. Anna squinted, trying to see through the fog. There, almost imperceptible against the grey mountain, was an entrance. A familiar symbol was carved into the rock above, a rose entwined with a sword. "It's the same symbol from the medallion," Anna whispered, her heart racing. They approached cautiously. The entrance was a narrow gap in the rock, just wide enough for one person to pass at a time. "Be prepared for anything," Richard warned, drawing his sword. Anna nodded, clutching Eleanor's medallion like a talisman. Together they entered the darkness, unaware of what awaited them in the heart of the mountain. The tunnel was damp and dark, illuminated only by the torch Richard carried. The walls were covered with ancient symbols and inscriptions in a language Anna didn't recognize. After what felt like an eternity walking in darkness, they emerged into a vast chamber. What they saw left them breathless. The chamber was an immense library, with shelves reaching up to the high vaulted ceiling. Thousands of books and scrolls filled the shelves, some appearing as ancient as the kingdom itself. In the center of the chamber, on a stone pedestal, lay a large, ornate book, and standing before it, with her back to them, was a hooded figure. "Eleanor," Anna called out hesitantly. The figure turned slowly. When she lowered her hood, Anna saw the face of a woman in her 30s, with eyes that seemed to carry the weight of many secrets. "Who are you?" Eleanor asked, her voice a mixture of caution and curiosity. "And how did you find me?" Anna stepped forward, offering the medallion. "My name is Anna. This is Richard. We come from Elmsworth at Duke Maurice's request. He told us about you before he died." Eleanor's eyes widened upon seeing the medallion. She took it with trembling hands, her fingers tracing the familiar symbol. "So it's true," she whispered. "Everything I discovered, everything that is in this book, the prophecy, my true legacy." "What prophecy?" Richard asked, his voice tense. Eleanor looked at the book open on the pedestal. A prophecy about Westmere's future, about a lost heiress who would bring change and renewal to the kingdom, but it also speaks of great dangers and difficult choices. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. Eleanor, we need to take you back. Westmere needs its true heir. Eleanor hesitated, her gaze shifting between Anna, Richard, and the ancient book. It's not that simple, she finally said. There are powerful forces that do not want me to take my place, and the prophecy, it speaks of sacrifices that must be made. Before Anna could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed down the tunnel behind them. Richard raised his sword, placing himself protectively in front of Anna and Eleanor. It seems we're no longer alone, he said grimly. Anna felt her heart race. They had found Eleanor and uncovered secrets beyond her imagination, but now they faced a new danger. Who had followed them there? And what would it mean for Westmere's future? As the footsteps grew closer, Anna knew they were about to face a challenge that would test not only their courage, but also their loyalty to the kingdom and to each other. Westmere's fate was about to be decided within the depths of that ancient mountain. Have you ever wondered how you would react when confronted by those who would do anything to keep secrets buried? How fear and courage intermingle when the fate of an entire kingdom is at stake. The echo of footsteps intensified, reverberating through the ancient walls of the chamber. Anna, Richard, and Eleanor positioned themselves defensively, with Richard at the front, his sword raised. Suddenly, 3 figures emerged from the shadows of the tunnel. Leading them was Mrs. Harland, the stern palace housekeeper, her cold gaze fixed on Eleanor. Flanking her were 2 menacing men whom Anna recognized as members of the royal council. So, the prophecy was correct, Mrs. Harland said, her voice sharp as ice. The lost heiress has returned. Eleanor stepped forward, her face a mask of determination. Who are you really? And why did you try to keep me hidden all these years? The man to Mrs. Harland's right, an older gentleman with a calculating gaze, answered, We are the guardians of the crown, a secret order dedicated to protecting Westmere from threats, including those foretold in ancient prophecies. Threats? Anna intervened, indignant. Eleanor is the rightful heir, an heir whose ascension, according to prophecy, could bring about great changes for Westmere, the other council member. Change is not always welcome, especially by those who benefit from the status quo. Richard maintained his defensive stance. So you would rather keep the kingdom in ignorance, ruled by lies? Mrs. Harland stepped forward, her eyes fixed on Eleanor. My dear, you do not understand the burden of what you are about to take on. The prophecy speaks of great sacrifices. We are here to spare you from that burden. Eleanor, however, stood her ground. It is not for you to decide my fate or Westmere's. The people deserve the truth, and I am ready to face whatever comes. The tension in the chamber was palpable. Anna could sense they were on the brink of a confrontation that could alter the course of Westmere's history. Enough! A strong, clear voice echoed through the chamber. Everyone turned to see a figure emerge from a hidden passage. It was an elderly man dressed in robes adorned with the same rose and sword symbol. Master Aldrich, Mrs. Harland whispered, her voice a mix of respect and fear. The newcomer looked at each of those present before speaking again. For centuries, we have guarded Westmere's secrets, interpreting prophecies and guiding the kingdom from the shadows. But perhaps it is time for the truth to come to light. He turned to Eleanor. Child, you bear a great burden. The prophecy speaks of an era of change, of challenges that will test not only you but the entire kingdom, but it also speaks of hope and renewal. Eleanor nodded, her voice firm. I am ready to face this challenge, for the good of Westmere and its people. Master Aldrich then addressed Anna and Richard. The 2 of you have proven your loyalty and courage. The kingdom will need allies like you in the days to come. Finally, he turned to Mrs. Harland and the councillors. And you must understand that we can no longer hide behind secrets and manipulations. It is time for Westmere to face its destiny head-on. Mrs. Harland seemed to want to protest, but something in Master Aldrich's gaze made her step back. What happens now? Anna asked, feeling the weight of the moment. Master Aldrich smiled gently. Now, my dear, we begin a new chapter in Westmere's history. A chapter of truth, challenges, and we hope a brighter future. The group prepared to leave the secret chamber, and Anna couldn't help but feel a mixture of apprehension and hope. They had uncovered ancient secrets and found the true heir, but she knew that the journey was far from over. The return to Elmsworth would only be the beginning. Eleanor would have to face a kingdom that did not know her, a people who might fear change, and enemies who still hid in the shadows. But looking at Eleanor, with her unwavering determination, Richard, with his fierce loyalty, and Master Aldrich, with his ancient wisdom, Anna felt that together they could face any challenge the future held. As they left the Iron Mountains, the rising sun cast its first rays over the kingdom of Westmere. It was a new dawn, not only for the day but for an entire era. Have you ever imagined what it would be like to return to a familiar place, knowing that nothing will ever be the same again? What it's like to bear the weight of a truth that could change the fate of thousands. The journey back to Elmsworth was marked by a silence filled with expectation. Eleanor, now aware of her true legacy, alternated between moments of fierce determination and silent doubt. Anna and Richard remained vigilant, aware that danger still surrounded them. As they approached the palace gates, the magnitude of what they were about to do weighed on everyone. Eleanor took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on Elmsworth's towering spires. "Are you ready?" Anna asked softly, placing a comforting hand on Eleanor's shoulder. The heiress nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "I was born ready, even without knowing it." The gates opened with a heavy creak, and the group entered the main courtyard. Servants and guards paused their activities, casting curious glances at the newcomers, especially at the stranger who walked with the posture of one born to lead. In the main hall they found the royal council gathered, their faces a mixture of surprise, fear, and in some, barely disguised anger. Master Aldrich stepped forward, his voice echoing through the hall. "Nobles of Westmere, I present to you Eleanor Fitzroy, the true heir to the throne of Elmsworth." A murmur swept through the assembly. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice clear and firm. "I know my arrival brings many questions and perhaps fears, but I come not to usurp, but to serve. Westmere deserves the truth, and together we can build a fairer and more prosperous future for all." The hours that followed were a whirlwind of revelations, heated discussions, and momentous decisions. Eleanor, with the support of Anna, Richard, and Master Aldrich, faced the council's doubts and objections with a mixture of compassion and resolve that impressed even her most staunch opponents. As the sun set, painting the Westmere sky in shades of gold and purple, a new era began to take shape. Eleanor was officially recognized as the legitimate heir, though the road ahead was still filled with... Anna, watching from a corner of the hall, felt a wave of pride and hope. Her journey, which had begun with a whisper in the night, had led to a transformation that would echo for generations. As the palace prepared to announce the news to the kingdom, Eleanor approached Anna and Richard. "I would not have come this far without you," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Westmere owes you both so much." Richard bowed respectfully. "It was an honor, Your Highness." Anna, in turn, embraced Eleanor. "This is only the beginning," she said. "There is still much to be done." Eleanor nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Yes, and I count on you by my side on this journey." As the stars began to dot the night sky over Elmsworth, Anna reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them here. The secrets had been revealed, the truth had come to light, but the real work was only beginning. Westmere's future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time it was filled with hope, and Anna knew that no matter what came, they would face it together, united by the truth and by love for the kingdom they had sworn to protect. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to witness the birth of a new era? How small changes in daily life can accumulate to create monumental transformation? The months following Eleanor's revelation as the true heir of Westmere were a whirlwind of activity. Elmsworth Palace, once a bastion of unchanging traditions, became the epicenter of a quiet revolution. Anna, now Eleanor's personal advisor, watched with admiration as the young ruler deftly navigated the turbulent waters of politics. Every day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities for change. One sunny morning as they walked through the palace gardens, Eleanor shared her plans for the future with Anna. "I want to open Elmsworth's doors to the people," she said, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. "For too long, this palace has symbolized the distance between royalty and those we serve. It's time to change that." Anna smiled, feeling her heart swell with pride. "It's a wonderful idea, Eleanor, but you know you'll face resistance from some of the more conservative members of the court." Eleanor nodded, her face taking on a determined expression. "I know, but if we want a truly united Westmere, we must start by breaking down these invisible barriers." In the weeks that followed, the palace transformed. Halls once reserved only for the nobility were opened for public audiences. Eleanor instituted a monthly day on which ordinary citizens could bring their concerns directly to the crown. The gardens, once a private retreat, became a public park where families could stroll and children could play. Not all the changes were welcomed enthusiastically. Anna often overheard whispers of discontent in the corridors, especially from nobles who saw their privileges diminishing. Richard, ever vigilant, warned of possible conspiracies against the new order. One night, as Eleanor, Anna and Richard discussed recent developments in a private meeting, Master Aldrich entered the room. His face "Your Highness," he said, bowing respectfully, "I have received troubling news. It appears that a group of discontented nobles is planning a rebellion. They claim the changes are going too far, too fast." Eleanor was silent for a moment, absorbing the information. When she spoke, her voice was calm but firm. "We cannot let the fear of progress stop us from doing what is right for Westmere, but we also cannot ignore the concerns of those who feel threatened by change." Anna admired the wisdom in Eleanor's words. "What do you suggest then?" "Let's convene a great council," Eleanor decided, "not only with nobles, but with representatives from all layers of Westmere's society. It's time to listen to all voices and find a path that benefits everyone." In the days that followed, messengers departed to all corners of the kingdom, summoning representatives for what would become known as the Great Council of Westmere. The air was thick with anticipation, mingled with. On the eve of the council, Anna found Eleanor alone in the throne room, contemplating her ancestors' portraits. "Nervous?" Anna asked softly. Eleanor turned, a tired smile on her face. "A bit. But more than that, I'm hopeful. Tomorrow may be the day Westmere truly begins to unite." Anna placed a comforting hand on Eleanor's shoulder. "You're not alone in this. We're all with you." When the sun rose the next day, illuminating Elmsworth's towers, the Great Council began. The main hall was filled with a diverse mix of people: nobles in fine clothing, prosperous merchants, calloused-handed farmers, skilled artisans, and even representatives from the most distant villages. Eleanor, seated on the throne, looked at the assembled crowd. Her gaze met Anna's, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, Eleanor stood to speak, her voice clear and strong, echoing through the hall. "People of Westmere, today marks the beginning of a new era, an era of dialogue, mutual awe. Together we will shape the future of our beloved kingdom." As the discussions began, Anna couldn't help but feel that she was witnessing something truly historic. The road ahead was still uncertain, filled with challenges and potential dangers. But for the first time in a long while, Westmere's future looked bright and full of possibilities. And so, under the watchful eyes of Anna, Richard, Master Aldrich, and all those who had fought to bring the truth to light, a new chapter in Westmere's history began to be written.